The first time I saw the rake, it wasn't outside my house. It was already inside, crouched at the end of my hallway, staring at my family. Part 1. The summer we left Chicago. I was 17 the summer my mother decided we were leaving Chicago, not for a better job, not because we wanted a fresh start, not for any reason that sounds good when you tell it to people later. We left because everything in our apartment had started to feel like it belonged to a life that had already ended. My dad was gone, the divorce had become official in the kind of silence that hurts worse than screaming. My mom stopped playing music while she cooked, my little sister Maya stopped asking when dad was coming back. And me, I got good at pretending I didn't care about anything at all. So we packed our life into a rented U-Haul and drove 3 hours southeast to a rental house outside Muncie, Indiana. If you've never been to that part of the country, it looks peaceful in a way that can feel fake when you first arrive. Flat roads that run forever. Chain restaurants near the highway, gas stations glowing in the dark like little islands. Church signs with cheerful messages. High school football fields. Subdivisions backed up against cornfields and strips of woods that seem harmless in daylight. It looked like the kind of place where people mowed their lawns on Saturdays and knew their neighbors' names. Our house sat at the edge of a half-finished neighborhood where the road dead-ended near a tree line. Beige siding, narrow porch, 2 floors, unfinished basement, backyard sloping toward the woods. The landlord called it cozy. My mother called it affordable, I called it temporary. Maya picked her room first because it faced the backyard. She was 10 and still believed windows were lucky if they looked out on trees. The first night there, I remember standing in the kitchen while Mom unpacked paper plates and store-brand cereal. The overhead light buzzed, Maya sat at the table coloring, and all I could hear through the screen door was the sound of insects outside and the far-off bark of somebody's dog. "It's not forever," my mother said without looking at me. That was her favorite sentence back then. I shrugged. "Cool." She stopped unpacking. "Ethan." "What?" "You don't have to make this harder." I laughed once, not because it was funny, I'm not the one who moved us to the middle of nowhere. Her face tightened, and just for a second I thought she was going to fight back. But she didn't. She just went back to stacking cups, like if she kept her hands busy enough, she wouldn't fall apart. That night I lay awake in a room full of unopened boxes and listened to the house settle. Every home makes sounds after midnight, especially unfamiliar ones. Pipes ticking. Wood flexing. Air vents popping. But there was another sound too, a soft rustle beneath my window. Slow. Irregular. Like something moving through weeds. I told myself it was a raccoon. Then I heard our dog, Cooper, start growling downstairs. Cooper was an old yellow lab, slow and sweet, the kind of dog who loved everyone and feared almost nothing. Hearing him growl like that made me sit up immediately. It wasn't barking, it wasn't alarm. It was low and steady, the sound of an animal feeling something wrong before people do. I got up, crossed the room, and lifted the blind. The backyard was dark except for a weak motion light on the far side of the house. Grass, fence posts, the black line of woods beyond. Nothing moving. Nothing unusual. Then the motion light clicked off. I stood there a few seconds longer and felt stupid for even looking. The next morning, Maya said she hadn't slept well. Why? Mom asked, pouring coffee into a travel mug. Maya kept stirring cereal until it was soggy. Someone was in the yard. Mom didn't even pause. Probably a deer, honey. No, Maya said. It was looking at me. Mom smiled the smile adults use when they want a subject dead. Bad dreams. New house. That's all. Maya looked at me. It wasn't a dream. I almost backed Mom up automatically. That's what older brothers do when they're tired and annoyed and don't want little kid weirdness before school registration. But something in her expression stopped me. She wasn't playing. She looked embarrassed that she'd said it out loud. What did it look like? I asked. She hesitated. Like, a person that forgot how to be a person. Mom exhaled hard. Okay. Enough. That afternoon, while unloading boxes from the garage, I noticed something under the kitchen window. 3 marks in the mud. They weren't footprints exactly, more like deep, narrow impressions pressed into the wet dirt. Too long for dog tracks. Too uneven for shoes. Like something had crouched there for a while with too much weight on its hands. I stared at them until Cooper, standing beside me, started whining and backing toward the deck. That was the first moment I felt it, that thin crack in normal life where fear slips in before logic can shut it out. Still, I didn't say anything. Because once you say a thing feels wrong, you make it real. A week later I started at my new high school. Muncie Central felt like every Midwestern high school you've ever seen. In movies, and every one you haven't. Hallways lined with faded trophy cases, flyers for marching band and wrestling. Teachers already tired, and it was only August. Kids who could tell within 5 seconds whether you were local or not. I kept my head down, ate lunch alone the first day, and tried not to look like the new guy even though that's all I was. That afternoon Maya had softball conditioning at the community park, so Mom took us both after school. The field sat beside a playground and a stand of tall trees that separated the park from a drainage ditch and a service road. Parents sat in folding chairs. Younger siblings climbed monkey bars. Somebody's dad shouted too intensely about warm-up drills like the World Series depended on it. It was all ordinary in the aggressively American way small-town afternoons can be. I was on my phone, pretending to text old friends who weren't texting back, when Maya stopped in the outfield and stared toward the trees. Then she dropped her glove. The coach blew a whistle. Maya, eyes up, but she didn't move. I followed her line of sight. At first I saw nothing but trunks and shade and chain-link fencing. Then I noticed something pale, very low to the ground, between 2 trees. It was too still. My brain did that thing where it starts naming harmless explanations as fast as possible. Trash bag, dog, kid crouching, weird lighting. Then it moved. Not by standing, by unfolding. Slowly, like something that had been folded wrong. I stood up so fast the metal bleacher screeched. The figure slipped behind a tree and vanished. Ethan? Mom asked, startled. I thought I saw something. What? I didn't answer, because what was I supposed to say? A guy, an animal, a thing. Maya jogged back in after practice, pale and shaking. She didn't talk the whole ride home. That night she asked if she could sleep with her lamp on. Mom said yes. At 3:12 a.m., I woke to the sound of tapping. 3 light knocks. Not on my door, on my window. I froze. 3 more. Careful, deliberate. Like somebody testing whether I was awake. I rolled out of bed and grabbed the aluminum baseball bat I kept by the closet more out of habit than courage. My heart was hitting so hard it made the room feel smaller. I moved to the window inch by inch, every nerve in my body telling me not to look. The tapping stopped. I pulled the blind aside. And for one impossible second, I saw a face below the frame line. Pale, hairless, too close, too low to the ground. Eyes reflecting nothing. Then it dropped out of sight so fast it barely looked real. I stumbled back and hit my desk chair hard enough to send it over. Mom shouted from down the hall, Ethan. I rushed to the window again, but the yard was empty. Just grass, just dark, just the woods. When I finally forced myself to breathe, I noticed the outside of the glass. There were long streaks on it. Not handprints. Not paw marks. More like something with narrow fingers had rested there and dragged itself down. That was the night I stopped thinking our move had brought us to a boring town. It had brought us somewhere that was already watching. Part 2. The shape in the yard. The next morning, I told myself I was not going to be the crazy new kid who thought monsters lived behind the house. So I said nothing. I cleaned the chair I had knocked over, got ready for school, and acted like I hadn't slept maybe 20 minutes total. My mother looked worse than I did. She had dark circles under her eyes and the same stiff tension around her mouth she got when bills were due or somebody mentioned Dad. Long night, she asked me. Yeah. Maya too. She stirred her coffee and stared into it. She said something kept whispering outside her room. I looked up. What? Mom rubbed her forehead. She's adjusting. We all are. That was the answer for everything, the move, the silence, the half-heard noises, the fear in the house. We're adjusting. At school, I lasted until lunch before finally telling someone, not a teacher, not an adult, a guy named Noah Briggs who sat behind me in US history and had already clocked me as the outsider. Noah had that restless local kid energy, messy hair, hoodie in August, sarcastic comments under his breath, the kind of person who acts like he doesn't care because he cares too much about everything. He caught me looking exhausted and said, "You look like roadkill." "Thanks. You live over near Briarwood, right?" I frowned. "How do you know that?" "Because you're the only new kid and your shoes still look city clean. Briarwood's all mud and unfinished sidewalks." He leaned back in his chair. "Also, my cousin delivers pizza there." I should have let it go. Instead, I asked, "Do people around here ever mess with houses at night?" Noah grinned instantly. "That depends. Are we talking drunk seniors, meth heads, or woodland demon?" I stared at him a second too long. His grin faded. "Oh," he said, "you saw something." I didn't answer. At lunch he sat across from me with the energy of a guy who had just been handed the most interesting thing to happen all week. "Tell me exactly what you saw." It was probably nothing.
That's not what I asked.
So I told him. The backyard, the softball field, the tapping, the pale face under the window. He listened without interrupting, which somehow made it worse. When I finished, he glanced around the cafeteria and lowered his voice. "Some people around here call it the rake." I almost laughed. "That sounds made up." "It is made up," he said. "That's how legends work. But people still say they've seen it. What is it supposed to be?" He shrugged. "Depends who you ask. Wild man, night crawler, sick person living in the woods. Something not human. Internet creepypasta gave it a name years ago, but the stories here are older." I leaned back. "You actually believe that?" He took a sip of chocolate milk like we were discussing weather. "I believe people in this county have been reporting the same description for a long time. Pale, thin, crawls weird, shows up near windows, watches families sleep." That sentence landed harder than I wanted it to. "Why families?" Noah looked at me for a moment. "That's the part nobody agrees on." That afternoon, when I got home, Maya was sitting on the living room floor drawing in silence. Mom had picked up an extra shift and wouldn't be back until evening. Cooper lay pressed against the front door instead of his usual spot by the couch. I looked down at Maya's sketchbook. Every page had the same figure. Long arms, bent spine, hollow eyes. Always near a bed, a tree, or a window. "You keep seeing it?" I asked. She nodded without looking up. "In dreams?" Another nod. "Does it talk?" This time she looked at me. Not with words. I didn't know what to say to that. That evening, Noah came over on the excuse of helping me with history notes, which sounded fake even to us but was enough for Mom. She was so tired she'd have let a marching band into the house if they promised to be quiet. Noah walked the backyard before sunset, phone out, filming like a wannabe documentary host. He stopped near the kitchen window, and crouched beside the impressions in the dirt, which had dried but not disappeared. "Those weren't here yesterday?" he asked. "No." "Animal?" "You tell me." He shook his head slowly. "Too much pressure in the front." Like something crouched and leaned forward, cool, super comforting. We checked along the fence, near the tree line, under the deck. Nothing. But Cooper refused to follow us past the edge of the patio. He planted his paws and whined, staring toward the woods. Noah noticed. "Dogs hate this stuff." "This stuff?" "Whatever it is." By the time dark came down, he had convinced me to help set up a cheap motion camera his uncle used for deer season. We strapped it to a tree facing the yard, and went inside. Mom ordered pizza. Maya barely ate. Wind pressed softly against the siding. The whole house felt like it was waiting. At 10:47 p.m., the motion light flared on. All four of us turned toward the backyard at once. Nothing visible. Just the light throwing harsh white across empty grass. Then Cooper started barking. Not at the yard, at the hallway. A sudden, violent burst that made Maya scream. We all looked. The hallway was dark except for the weak yellow light from the kitchen. Empty. But the attic pull-down cord was swaying. Mom stood up too fast and knocked over her glass. What the hell? Noah whispered, did somebody open that? No, I said. Mom marched over like anger was easier for her than fear and yanked the hallway light brighter. The attic hatch was shut. The cord swung once more and went still. She turned to us, already forcing control back into her voice. Nobody says a word to Maya about this. Maya, still sitting at the table, said softly, it's already inside. Nobody answered her. After midnight, Noah and I checked the deer camera footage. At first it showed exactly what you'd expect, wind moving grass, a rabbit, Cooper pacing near the back door. The timestamp crawled forward, 12:31, 1:08, 1:46. At 2:13, static glitched across the screen for less than a second. When the image cleared, something was in the yard. It was crouched on all fours near the swing set the landlord had left behind. Pale gray skin, or maybe just skin that looked wrong under infrared. Knees bent too high, arms too long. Head tilted with an almost curious angle. It wasn't blurry in the normal sense, it looked wrong in the frame itself, like the camera didn't fully understand what it was filming. Maya appeared behind us before either of us noticed. That's him, she said. Mom grabbed the phone, her face drained of color. It's a person, she said too fast. Some sick person. Mom, I said, that is not normal. She snapped at me instantly. Then, what do you want me to say, Ethan? That a monster is in the backyard. Noah, to his credit, didn't smirk or push. He just said, you should call the police. Mom looked at the video again, and for the first time since we moved, I saw real fear break through her denial. She called. A deputy came out close to 1 in the morning. He was older, heavyset, tired-looking, with the calm voice of someone who had responded to every kind of nonsense rural counties produce. He checked the yard with a flashlight, took one look at the video, and asked if we had any local trespassers, unstable neighbors, or wildlife issues. When Mom said no, he nodded like he expected that answer. He never said the word prank. He never said the word animal. He definitely never said monster. But before leaving, he stood on the porch a second too long, looking toward the woods, and asked, have any of you been hearing things at night before this? Mom hesitated. Why? He forced a quick smile. No reason. Just document anything unusual and keep your doors locked. Noah caught the look on his face too. After the deputy left, Noah muttered, he knows. Mom heard him. Noah, go home. He did. I barely slept. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps outside my room again, but this time not on the grass.
On the roof, over the porch. Slow, light, deliberate.
Step, step, drag, step. I wanted to open the door and check on Maya, but fear kept me nailed to the bed. That's the thing nobody tells you about terror when it first enters a house. You imagine bravery as motion. But real fear is paralysis. It convinces you that as long as you stay still, the nightmare might pass over you. At 3:12, Maya screamed. I ran into the hallway at the same time Mom did. Maya was standing on her bed, pointing at the window with tears streaming down her face. There, she cried, there. We all looked. Outside the glass, pressed low near the sill, was a pale shape sliding past the window. Not fast, not attacking. Just moving with eerie patience, like it knew we were watching and wanted us to see exactly how close it had come. Mom shut the blinds so hard the cord snapped. No one slept after that. And by morning, the whole house felt claimed.
Part 3. The town that pretends not to know.
The worst part of being afraid in a new town is not knowing whether you're in danger or just becoming the local joke. At school, the story spread anyway. It always does. By second period, people had heard that the new kid in Briarwood caught a creature on camera. Some thought it was hilarious. Some wanted the footage. A few wouldn't meet my eyes at all. That was how I met Lena Torres. She found me, after English, leaning against a locker and pretending not to hear two sophomores making monster noises as they passed. "You showed Noah a video?" she asked. She was direct in a way that made small talk impossible. Dark braid, denim jacket, sharp expression, the kind of face that looked unimpressed before you even spoke. "Maybe." "He says what you saw looked like something my cousin described, before he disappeared." That cut through everything. "What?" She glanced down the hall. "Walk with me." We went outside near the portable classrooms where the wind carried the smell of cut grass and hot asphalt from the student parking lot. Football practice echoed from the field in the distance. "My cousin Mateo," she said, "went missing 2 summers ago. Official story is he ran away. Nobody in my family believes that." I said nothing. "He worked nights at a gas station off State Road 32. A month before he disappeared, he started talking about seeing something outside his apartment. Said it kept showing up in places it shouldn't be. Roof, hallway, edge of the lot. He stopped sleeping. Started forgetting time. That doesn't prove anything." "I know." Her eyes locked on mine. "Then one night he called my brother crying and said there was something crouched at the foot of his bed. By morning he was gone." The wind shifted. Somewhere nearby a bell rang. "Did police do anything?" I asked. Lena gave a dry laugh. "They searched. They asked questions. Then everyone got tired." That afternoon, Noah, Lena, and I sat in the corner of the public library pretending to work, while Noah pulled up local newspaper archives on one of the old desktop computers. The library itself was one of those classic small-town American places, quiet, carpeted, a little outdated, with community flyers near the entrance and a smell of dust and printer toner in the air. An elderly librarian in glasses gave us suspicious looks every time Noah got too excited and forgot to whisper. We found scattered reports going back years: missing pets, attempted break-ins, sleepwalking incidents, 911 calls with descriptions like male subject outside residence, crawling, possible intruder on roof, child claims someone in bedroom. No article used the name The Rake. That name belongs to internet forums and dumb late-night videos. But the pattern beneath it felt older and uglier than any online legend. Lena pointed to a clipping from 2008 about a family in Delaware County who abandoned their home after repeated nighttime disturbances. The father reported waking to a crouched figure near the bedroom doorway. No arrest. No follow-up. Noah found a forum thread where locals swapped sightings near culverts, drainage canals, and the woods behind housing developments built over older farmland. "Look at this," he whispered. "It keeps happening on edges, edge of neighborhoods, edge of woods, edge of roads." "Coincidence," Lena said automatically. But she didn't sound convinced. That evening Noah took us to see someone he swore might talk, retired Deputy Walter Haynes, who lived in a peeling white house outside town with wind chimes on the porch and an old police scanner still crackling in the kitchen. He opened the door with the expression of a man already regretting it. "School project?" he asked. "No, sir," Noah said. "We wanted to ask about unusual calls around Briarwood and the old quarry road." Walter stared at us for a long moment. "Kids your age need hobbies." Lena stepped forward. "My cousin disappeared, Mateo Torres." "You worked that year." Something changed in his face at that. He let us in. His living room smelled like old coffee and cedar. Hunting photos lined the walls. A college basketball game played silently on TV. Walter sat down slowly and studied us the way adults do when deciding whether honesty will help or damage. "You kids know what happens in small towns," he said finally. "People decide what kind of story they can live with." Noah leaned forward. "Meaning?" "Meaning if a dog tears up trash cans, it's a dog. If a sick man prowls property lines, it's a sick man. If somebody sees something they can't explain at 3 in the morning after no sleep and too much fear," he spread his hands. "Town prefers a story it can file." "What did you see?" I asked. He looked straight at me. I never said I saw anything. But he had. It was written all over him. He reached for the armrest, fingers tense. "Back in 2011 there were calls clustered over 6 weeks. Families on the west side mostly. Same pattern. Scratching at windows. Motion lights, children waking up screaming. A few adults claiming something was standing in their rooms. We'd go out, find nothing, maybe some impressions in mud, sometimes damage to screens. Then it would stop. Why not report it publicly? Lena asked. Walter gave a tired smile. Publicly as what? Silence. He continued, here's what I will tell you. Every time it got bad, the family involved was already under strain. Divorce, death, money trouble, sick kid, addiction, that kind of thing. I felt cold despite the heat in the room. Why does that matter? I said. Walter's gaze drifted toward the window. Don't know. But whatever people were seeing, it liked houses already coming apart. On the drive back, none of us talked much. At home, things were worse. Mom had started forgetting conversations. Nothing dramatic, nothing movie-like. Just small slips. She'd ask if I had taken out the trash when I already had. She'd put Maya's lunch together twice. She kept waking from naps on the couch, disoriented and angry, like she'd been yanked up from somewhere too deep. Maya stopped drawing anything except the same figure. That night I found one of her sketches taped to the inside of her closet door. The shape stood over 3 beds. One had my mother in it. One had Maya. The third had me. And in the corner, written in a child's shaky hand, were the words, "He waits until everyone is tired." I took the picture to Noah the next day. He stared at it and said, "That's not random." Lena said. "Or she's overhearing us and feeding off it." "That's possible," Noah admitted. "But look at the wording." I didn't want to look at the wording. I wanted my sister to stop acting like our house belonged to a thing outside the windows. That night, Mom had one of her blackouts. Not medically, not fully. She was making boxed macaroni on the stove, then suddenly standing in the laundry room with no memory of walking there. When I asked what happened, she snapped at me so hard Maya started crying. Later, after Maya went to bed, Mom sat at the kitchen table with both hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. "I'm just tired," she said. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." "You saw the video," she looked up sharply. "You think I don't know what I saw?" I softened immediately. "That's not what I meant." She laughed, brittle and low. "I moved my children into a house where my daughter won't sleep and my son thinks something's hunting us. So, no, Ethan, I'm not doing great." That was the first honest thing either of us had said in weeks. I sat across from her. For a while the house was quiet. Then from upstairs, in Maya's room, came 3 slow taps on the glass. Mom went completely still. Tap, tap, tap. We both looked at each other. Neither of us moved at first. Then Maya screamed. By the time we got upstairs, her window was locked, the blinds were shut, and she was huddled in the corner of her bed. Sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. "It was smiling," she cried. Mom pulled her in tight, but her eyes were locked on the window. With a fear that was finally too deep to hide. I checked outside with the bat and a flashlight, the beam shook in my hand. The yard was empty again, but near Maya's window, in the flower bed, were fresh impressions in the dirt. Not feet, hands, as if something had stood there crouched for a long, long time. Watching her sleep. That was the night I understood something that made everything worse. The thing outside wasn't trying to get in. It was teaching us what it would feel like when it finally did. Part 4. It learns the house. After that, we stopped pretending life was normal. Mom started double-locking every door before sunset. She bought brighter floodlights for the yard and motion sensors for the deck. Noah helped me run fishing line with bells near the back fence, a ridiculous setup that made the yard look like we were preparing for raccoons, not whatever this was. Lena brought pepper spray, a hunting knife from her uncle's garage, and enough skepticism to keep us from losing our minds completely. "Let's be clear," she said, standing in our kitchen with her arms crossed. "We still do not have proof this is supernatural." Noah pointed at the monitor showing the deer camera footage frame by frame. It crossed 18 feet in less than a second. "Then we have proof of something impossible on a cheap camera," Lena said. "That is not the same thing." I almost smiled. That was her role in our little disaster, keeping the fear from becoming religion. For 3 nights nothing happened. Or maybe that's not true. Things happened, but not enough to grab and hold. A light on in the basement we all swore had been off, the attic cord swaying again, Cooper refusing to enter the hallway after dark, Maya speaking in her sleep. Mom waking with bruise-like pressure marks on her arm that faded by noon, though we never talked about them in those words. By the 4th night, exhaustion had its own gravity. That's how these things work. Fear by itself is sharp, but fear mixed with sleep deprivation becomes fog. It makes bad judgment feel reasonable. Noah wanted to stay over and watch the cameras live. Mom surprised me by saying yes. We stationed ourselves in the living room with lamps off, TV muted, phones charging, the camera feed pulled up on Noah's laptop. Rain tapped faintly on the windows. The house smelled like detergent and stale coffee, America at midnight, a quiet suburban home full of cheap furniture, charging cables, grocery bags by the pantry,
and the possibility that something from outside was memorizing the way we lived.
At 1:37 a.m., the motion light in the backyard turned on, no movement on camera. At 1:39, the side yard light clicked on too. Still nothing. Noah enlarged the frame. That's impossible. Lena, who had agreed to stay until midnight and somehow was still there, leaned over his shoulder. Maybe the sensors catching rain. Then the fishing line bell rang outside. One soft metal chime, then another. Cooper erupted into barking from the kitchen. Mom came down the stairs, wrapped in a robe and instantly alert. Maya stood halfway down the staircase behind her, clutching a blanket. Back upstairs, Mom said. I don't want to. Now. Maya obeyed. I went with Noah to the back door. The yard looked empty except for rain shining silver in the floodlights. The bell chimed again somewhere near the fence. Mom whispered, "Don't open that door." We didn't. Instead, Noah adjusted the camera feed to the side yard and froze. The pale figure was there. It wasn't moving toward the house. It was crouched beside it. One hand splayed on the siding. Head tilted upward, almost listening. Its body looked hairless and stretched, shoulders too sharp, limbs too jointed. Not muscular, not animal. Starved looking, in a way that felt ancient instead of weak. Lena whispered. "Oh my God." Mom covered her mouth. The thing lifted its face slowly toward the camera. Its eyes reflected white. Then the screen went dead, static. Noah cursed and smacked the side of the laptop like that would matter. We lost signal. At the exact same moment, from upstairs, Maya screamed again. Mom bolted. We all ran. Maya's room was empty, the window was shut, the closet door stood open. Her blanket lay on the floor, my chest locked so hard I couldn't breathe. Maya. Mom shouted. Then we heard her voice from outside, soft, calm. Wrong. In the backyard. Mom almost ran straight for the back stairs, but I grabbed her. Wait. The rain had intensified,
drumming on the roof and gutters.
We rushed downstairs and into the kitchen, through the glass of the back door. In the rain-swept darkness, Maya stood barefoot in the yard. She was facing the woods. Not moving. Mom yanked the door open before any of us could stop her and sprinted out into the rain calling Maya's name. I followed. Noah and Lena were right behind me. Maya didn't resist when Mom reached her. She didn't even seem fully awake, her skin was freezing, her eyes were half-lidded. "What are you doing out here?" Mom cried. Maya blinked slowly. "He wanted me to see where he comes from." The whole yard went silent in my head after that. Not actually silent. Rain everywhere. Mom sobbing, Noah cursing. Lena saying we needed to get inside. But in me, something flat and cold took over. Because, until then, part of me had still hoped this thing was random, a prowler, a sick neighbor, a one-off nightmare wearing a shape. But Maya's voice calm, dreamy, repeating words no 10-year-old invents in a storm destroyed that hope. Inside, after we dried her off and wrapped her in blankets, she remembered almost nothing. Just a dream about trees and someone kneeling very low in the dark. Mom finally agreed to take her to urgent care the next morning, though it was really for reassurance more than treatment. They checked vitals, asked about sleepwalking history, stress, recent move, family disruption. They used all the same words normal life uses when it wants the abnormal to disappear. That afternoon, while Mom and Maya were gone, Noah reviewed the camera data. He found a gap. 6 minutes of corrupted footage, the last visible frame before the glitch showed the thing at the side wall. The first visible frame after showed Maya already in the backyard. No way she walked down, unlocked the door, and crossed the yard without showing up on any angle, Noah said. I rubbed both hands over my face. Then where was it? He looked up slowly. Inside.
Lena showed up an hour later with a county plat map and copies of the archived clippings.
She spread them across our dining table like we were planning a military operation. Look at the locations, she said. They cluster along the drainage lines and the old quarry road. Houses back up to tree lines, culverts, utility easements, abandoned farm lots. There's a path. Noah traced it with his finger, like a corridor. For animals, I asked. For movement, Lena said. Whatever kind. I looked at the map, at the marks, at the road leading from the older incidents toward our development. And suddenly our house didn't feel singled out. It felt next in line. That night I checked every room before bed. Closets. Under beds. Basement corners. Shower curtains. Attic hatch. Every dumb cliché people joke about when they've never actually been afraid in their own home. At 2:58 a.m., I woke already knowing something was wrong. No sound. No dream. Just certainty. My room was dark except for streetlight glow leaking around the blinds. I sat up slowly and listened. The house was too quiet. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Not in the hall, in my room. Very close to the floor. I couldn't move. My eyes adjusted inch by inch. At the far corner near the closet, there was a shape. Low. Folded. Watching. I grabbed for the lamp and knocked it on. The corner was empty. But the closet door, which I knew I had shut, was open 3 inches. I backed into the hallway so fast I almost fell. Mom opened her bedroom door at the same moment, face pale and wild. Did you hear that? Hear what? She swallowed. Something was under my bed. Neither of us said another word for several seconds, then, from down the hall, Maya's bedroom door slowly creaked open by itself. The darkness inside was complete. And from within it came a soft sound like nails dragging lightly across wood. That was the point where the house stopped being shelter. It became a countdown.
Part 5. The Night in the Woods.
We decided to go into the woods because every other choice felt like waiting to be cornered. That is the kind of stupid decision people criticize in horror stories, until they live through the version where staying home feels even dumber. Noah had mapped the old sightings, Lena had cross-referenced addresses with county records. 3 locations kept repeating around the same stretch west of town: an abandoned farmstead near the drain quarry, a condemned hunting shack, and a service road maintenance tunnel that had been sealed years ago after flooding. Those are not the same as proof, Lena kept saying. But she came anyway. We told my mom we were going to Noah's to study. She barely looked up from the couch when I said it. She hadn't really slept in days, neither had Maya. Neither had I. It was late afternoon when we drove out, the kind of humid Indiana summer evening where the air sits heavy over fields and every roadside tree seems darker than it should. We passed bait shops, rusted mailboxes, barns leaning into age, small churches with hand-painted signs, empty lots, overgrown with goldenrod, and finally turned onto a cracked access road that seemed to lead nowhere. Noah parked near a chain across the road and killed the engine. The woods ahead looked ordinary enough. That was what scared me most by then, how normal places remained while your understanding of them changed completely. We went in on foot. Mosquitoes whined around us, branches snapped under our shoes, somewhere deeper in the trees, water dripped rhythmically. Noah carried a flashlight and his phone. Lena had a backpack with water, batteries, and a first aid kit. I carried the bat, which felt ridiculous until I thought of not carrying it. After 20 minutes we found the first structure. The remains of a farmhouse foundation with half-collapsed walls, vines pulling through broken windows, and a porch canted sideways into weeds. The place looked less abandoned than surrendered. Inside, the wallpaper peeled in long strips, a child's shoe lay in one corner, rotted by weather. Empty cans, old beer bottles, and more recent cigarette butts suggested local teens came here sometimes, but deeper in, under the mold and dust, there was something else. Scratch marks. Long repeated gouges in the wood near a bedroom doorway, low to the floor. Noah crouched. These aren't from furniture. Lena shone her light toward the back room. Or animals. I found the basement door hanging half open. The smell hit first, damp earth, rot, rust, the closed-up breath of old places. We descended carefully. The beam from my flashlight shook over stone walls, shelves, collapsed crates, and something nailed above the far workbench. A newspaper clipping. Then another. And another. Dozens, some local, some from neighboring counties, some so old the paper had browned at the edges. Break-ins. Missing persons. Sleep disorders. Violent delusions. Families leaving homes overnight. Always the same, strange, avoidant language. On the workbench lay a cassette recorder sealed in a plastic bag. Noah stared at it. This is insane. Lena looked around the room. People were collecting this, or surviving it, I said. We took the recorder and searched the rest of the basement. In a metal locker half rusted shut, Noah found 3 notebooks wrapped in a tarp. The first 2 were mildew-damaged beyond much use. The third was partly readable, written by someone named Dale Mercer, judging from the first page, though most of the early entries were gone. The later entries were worse, precisely because they were calm. It does not force entry first. It waits. It learns voices. It appears where fear has already made room. Children notice it earliest. Then animals, then the sleepless. If it is looking through the window, it has already been inside the house before. I read that line 3 times. Lena looked at me and didn't say what we were both thinking. Noah turned the page. Do not follow it into the trees, unless someone is missing. If you do, it is because it wants the house empty. No one spoke after that. We left the basement fast. Outside the light had shifted toward evening gold, but the woods felt dimmer than they should have. Noah kept scanning behind us. Lena asked twice if we should go straight back to the car. I should have said yes. Instead I said, what if there's more at the shack? Because fear had become obsession by then, and obsession always pretends it's logic. The shack was another 15 minutes deeper in. Small. 1 room. Roof mostly intact, old deer bones scattered nearby, probably left by hunters. Inside, the walls were covered in more marks, some scratches, some frantic notes in black marker. Don't let it separate you. It mimics stillness. It watches before storms. In one corner sat an old baby monitor, long dead. Lena whispered, this is not normal teenage prank stuff. Noah, who had been our resident legend chaser all week, looked suddenly less excited than terrified. No kidding. Then we heard movement outside. Fast. Circling. Not from one direction, from several, too quick and light to pin down. We all went silent. The woods around the shack seemed to hold their breath. Then something brushed the outer wall. A long, dry scrape. The 3 of us froze. Another scrape. This time across the window frame. Noah raised his flashlight but didn't turn it on. Lena gripped my arm so hard it hurt. My whole body felt electric, waiting for impact. Instead, from somewhere beyond the shack, a human voice shouted, "Help!" Noah's face drained. That was me. It had sounded exactly like him. "Don't move," Lena whispered. The voice came again, farther now. "Help!" Perfectly Noah's voice. Then, from the other side of the shack came Maya's voice. "Ethan." Every instinct in my body tried to override the obvious. Maya needed me. Maya was scared. Maya was here. But she wasn't. She couldn't be. The voice was wrong, not in sound,
but in emptiness, like a recording playing through a throat. Then silence. Then something past the window. Not fully visible, just a pale bend of shoulder, the arc of a spine. Fingers too long sliding over the sill. Noah mouthed, "Run." We bolted. Out the door, through brush, branches slapping our faces, roots catching our feet. It felt less like escaping and more like being allowed to flee. Behind us I heard movement pacing us effortlessly through the trees, never fully closing, never dropping back. At one point Noah vanished from my left. I shouted his name and nearly turned back, but Lena grabbed my shirt and screamed, "Keep moving." 30 seconds later he burst out ahead of us from a different angle, gasping, mud on his hands, eyes wild. "Don't split," he yelled. We reached the car at dusk and slammed the doors hard enough to shake the frame. No one spoke until Noah started the engine. Then Lena turned in her seat. "Your house." I looked at her. "What?" She held up the notebook page I had stuffed into my pocket. The one with Mercer's warning. "If you follow it into the trees, it is because it wants the house empty." My blood went cold. Mom wasn't answering her phone, neither was Maya. I called again and again as Noah tore down the road faster than I had ever seen him drive. Then finally, on the fourth attempt, Mom picked up. Her voice was a whisper. "Ethan, Mom. Are you okay? Where's Maya?" A pause, breathing, then, "It's in the house." The line went dead. For the next 10 minutes the drive felt endless. Cornfields blurred past. Tires screamed through turns, the sky darkened under rolling storm clouds, and every yard light we passed already glowed as if the whole county sensed night coming. Wrong. Noah kept saying, "Call 911, call 911, I did. I gave our address, stammered about an intruder, a break-in, my mother and sister inside. I left out everything nobody dispatch would believe. They said deputies were on the way." But I already knew what terrified me most. They were coming for a burglary. We were coming home to something else. Part 6, when it finally comes inside. The storm broke as we turned into Briarwood. Wind bent the young trees along the street. Porch decorations rolled across lawns. Lightning flashed over rooftops so white it made every house look briefly hollowed out. Half the block was dark already, power failure, or blown transformer, I couldn't tell. Our house sat at the end of the cul-de-sac with the back floodlight strobing weakly and the front door hanging open 3 inches. Noah parked crooked across the curb before the car fully stopped. I was out first. Rain hit like cold gravel. I ran to the porch and pushed through the front door. "Mom." No answer. The living room was dim with intermittent lightning, lamps off, TV screen black. One dining chair overturned, water tracked across the hardwood from the back of the house in long muddy streaks. Lena came in behind me. "Don't separate." Too late. I was already halfway to the hallway. "Maya." A whisper answered from the darkness ahead, not from a room. From the hall itself. "Ethan." I stopped so hard my shoes slipped on the floor. At the far end of the hallway, barely outlined by lightning through the back kitchen window, stood Maya. Or what I thought was Maya. Small shape, long hair, bare feet, head lowered. I took one step forward. Then the lightning flashed again. The proportions were wrong, too thin, arms too long, head lifting too slowly. I lunged backward just as the figure dropped to all fours and shot sideways into the laundry room with a speed so violent it barely looked physical. Lena screamed. Noah slammed into me from behind. "Where are they?" Then from the basement door came pounding. 3 hard impacts from below. Mom's voice, hoarse and frantic. "Ethan." We rushed the basement door and yanked it open. Mom stumbled up the steps,
clutching Maya so tightly the kid could barely breathe. Both of them were soaked, filthy, shaking uncontrollably. "It was upstairs," Mom gasped. "It came through Maya's room. I locked us in the basement." I thought. She couldn't finish. Noah shoved the basement door shut again. "We need to leave. Right now." The back of the house answered with a crash so loud it shook the windows. Kitchen glass exploding inward. Maya screamed. The storm outside roared louder, and for a second the whole first floor seemed alive with rain, wind, broken glass, and the sound of something moving low and fast across tile. We ran for the garage entry. The interior door jammed halfway, something on the other side pushed back. Noah cursed and threw his shoulder into it again. The gap widened an inch, then slammed shut. From the kitchen, a scraping crawl moved toward us through the dark. Lena grabbed Maya. Living room. Now. We backed into the living room as lightning flashed again through the front windows, strobing the room in white. In that frozen instant, I saw it clearly for the first time. The rake stood half-crouched in the broken archway between kitchen and hall. Not giant, not theatrical. That made it worse. It was roughly human-sized, but profoundly wrong in the way a spider is wrong up close. Pale skin stretched over sharp joints, chest marrow, shoulders angular, head hairless and tilted, eyes unblinking, fingers long enough to touch the floor when it leaned. It did not snarl. It did not roar. It simply watched us with the calm attention of something that had waited a long time to reach this point. Mom made a sound I had never heard from her before, somewhere between a sob and an animal warning. The thing's head turned toward her first, then toward Maya. And I understood. It had never been choosing rooms, it had been choosing pressure points. Noah whispered, "Front door." We moved sideways as one cluster, trying not to break formation. Rain lashed against the porch outside. The creature mirrored us from 20 feet away, drifting low along the edge of the room, not rushing. Hurting. Lena suddenly snatched a lamp off the end table and hurled it. The lamp shattered against the wall near its head, the rake flinched, tiny, but real. "Move," she shouted. We ran. I reached the front door first and yanked it wide, then Maya cried out. Mom had stumbled. The creature had covered half the room in a blur and stopped inches from her, one hand on the floor, face level with hers, like it wanted her to see exactly what it was before the end. I swung the bat. Not heroic, desperate, full strength, both hands, every ounce of terror behind it. The aluminum connected with its shoulder or neck I couldn't tell, and the impact jarred my arms numb. The thing snapped backward with a hiss-like intake of breath, more startled than injured. But it worked. Long enough. Noah dragged Mom up, Lena shoved Maya through the front door. We spilled onto the porch into rain and lightning and screaming wind. Then Maya stopped. She turned toward the side of the house. "He's not letting us go," she said in that same dreamy voice from the storm night. The side yard motion light flicked on. There was another shape there. Then another by the backyard fence. Not separate creatures, I think now, just glimpses, angles, the same thing, moving faster than our minds could track, making the darkness feel populated. Noah shouted over the storm, "Car." We ran again. Halfway down the walk, the neighborhood transformer blew somewhere nearby, with a bright green flash. Every remaining light on the block died. Total darkness. Then thunder. Then the sound of something landing behind us on the porch roof. Mom cried out. I grabbed Maya's hand and kept moving by pure instinct. Noah fumbled keys. Lena was shouting directions I couldn't process. Rain blinded everything. Then, from the left, across the yard, came flashing blue lights. A deputy's cruiser turning into the cul-de-sac. For one instant relief hit so hard it almost dropped me to my knees. The cruiser's spotlight swept across our house, across us, across the roofline, and caught the rake crouched above the porch, white and motionless in the storm. The deputy shouted something I couldn't hear, probably a command, maybe just a reflex. The spotlight flickered, the creature vanished, not jumped, not climbed, gone. The deputy ran toward us with one hand on his sidearm, another officer behind him. Their radios crackled uselessly in the rain. We were all talking at once. Intruder. Inside, upstairs. It's fast, it's in there. They went in anyway, because that's what people do when they still believe the world follows rules. 1 minute passed, then another. The officers came back out, pale and confused, saying the back kitchen window was smashed, rooms were torn up, but nobody was inside. Nobody. No one asked why muddy tracks crossed the ceiling of the upstairs hall. No one asked why Maya's closet door had deep new gouges in the wood. No one asked why the deputy who had first responded to our earlier call looked at me and then toward the woods and muttered, almost under his breath, "Not again." We didn't stay in the house that night. Or the next. The county put us in a motel near the interstate while reports were filed and insurance got called. It should have felt safe, 2 queen beds, humming AC, vending machines in the hall, the anonymous comfort of America's roadside nowhere. Instead it felt temporary in the worst possible way, like hiding between one breath and the next. Mom barely spoke. Maya slept with the lights on and the TV volume turned low just to keep silence away. Around 4 a.m., while both of them slept, I sat in a plastic chair by the motel window and watched trucks move along the highway. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Noah. "Check the outside camera." I frowned. He had set a cheap stick-on camera outside the motel room earlier as a joke that stopped being funny the second he actually did it. I opened the feed. For a moment, all I saw was the walkway, wet from rain,
neon from the motel sign glowing pink across the concrete. Then at the far edge of frame, just beyond our door, a pale shape crouched low against the wall. Not moving. Watching. I looked up so fast I nearly dropped the phone. Nothing visible through the people. I checked the feed again. The walkway was empty. My pulse hammered in my throat. Another text came through. "Ethan, I think it followed you." I didn't answer, because I had already begun to understand the final truth, that none of the old clippings, all the scared families, all the deputies and rumors and hidden stories had fully said aloud. The house had never really been the target. The move, the divorce, the sleeplessness, Maya's dreams, Mom's fear, the slow pressure on every weak point, those weren't just circumstances. They were a path. And I had walked it. I thought about the first night in Indiana, the tapping at my window, the pale face below the frame, the certainty that it had chosen our family because we were vulnerable. Maybe that was only half true. Maybe it had chosen me because I was the one who kept looking back, the one who noticed, the one who followed. Outside, beyond the motel curtains, dawn had not yet come. The highway lights glowed. The room hummed softly. My mother and sister slept at last. And in the dark reflection of the window, for the briefest second, I saw something crouched low behind me, watching, waiting for us to get tired again. End.